There is a moment, just before everything changes, when the world looks completely ordinary. The fluorescent lights still hum the same way they always have. The coffee machine still gurgles and hisses in the corner. Officers still joke with each other near the sign and desk, still clap each other on the back, still carry the comfortable weight of routine. Everything looks normal. Everything sounds normal. And then a man walks through the front door, and nothing will ever be the same again. But nobody knows that yet. Not the officers near the coffee machine. Not the sergeant carrying her stack of transfer files. Not even the man who just walked in, though he came here knowing exactly what this moment would cost him. His name is Marcus Webb. He is 42 years old. He is wearing civilian clothes, a dark jacket, pressed trousers, quiet shoes. He carries no weapon. He makes no sudden moves. He walks through the front door of the 4th Precinct at exactly 5:30 on a Tuesday afternoon during shift change, when the lobby is at its most crowded and chaotic, and he walks with the kind of stillness that only comes from people who have spent years in situations where stillness is survival. He has been a Marine. He has been an FBI crisis negotiator. He has spent 6 years talking people down from ledges, both literal and metaphorical. He knows how to read a room. He knows how to control his breathing. He knows how to look at a situation and see exactly what it is, stripped of noise and fear and confusion. He sees all of that now as he crosses the lobby, and what he sees makes his chest tight in a way that has nothing to do with fear. It has to do with recognition. Because he has been in rooms like this before, not this exact room, but rooms that feel like this. Rooms where a certain kind of silence follows a certain kind of person. He grew up in rooms like this. His brother grew up in rooms like this. His brother died in a room like this. That is why Marcus Webb is here today. Not as a visitor, not as a complaint filer, not as a community liaison or a civilian observer or any of the other roles the city sometimes assigns to people who make inconvenient noise about inconvenient things. He is here because 3 years ago, his younger brother Darius Webb walked into this same building in crisis, asking for help, scared and overwhelmed, and reaching out to the people who were supposed to protect him. And Darius never walked out again. Marcus has spent 3 years learning everything there is to know about what happened in this building on that night. He has read every report, every transcript, every medical examiner's note. He has spoken to every witness who would speak to him. He has worked with federal investigators who were building their own case, quietly, carefully, over 18 months, until the case was airtight and the moment was right. Tonight is the moment. And Marcus Webb is the reason it is right. He crosses the lobby floor. His shoes make a soft, even sound against the tile. He does not look left or right. He does not hunch his shoulders or make himself small. He walks like a man who belongs in every room he has ever entered, because he does. He walks toward the front desk. He is going to ask for the watch commander. He is going to explain, calmly and clearly, that he has an appointment connected to tomorrow morning's ceremony, and that he needs to complete a brief administrative meeting before the end of business today. That is all he needs. 10 minutes, maybe 15. He will not need them. He will not get them. Because before he reaches the front desk, before he can say a single word to anyone, before he has done anything that could be described as threatening or suspicious or unusual, Officer Garrett Cole sees him. Garrett Cole has been with the 4th Precinct for 11 years. He is 38 years old. He is broad-shouldered and carries himself with the particular confidence of someone who has been in authority for long enough that it has stopped feeling like a role and started feeling like a fact of nature. He sees Marcus Webb cross the lobby, and something happens in his face. Not alarm, Exactly. Not recognition. Something older and uglier than either of those things. Something that has been baked into his responses over so many years that he probably does not even notice it anymore. He moves to intercept. He crosses the lobby with the ease of someone who has done this before. Someone who has done this many times before. He steps into Marcus's path, and he does not say, "Excuse me," or "May I help you," or "What brings you in today?" He says, in a voice low enough that it does not carry to the coffee machine, but loud enough that Marcus hears every syllable clearly. "Where exactly do you think you're going?" Marcus stops. He looks at Officer Cole. He takes a breath. His voice when he answers is completely level. He says, "I have a meeting scheduled. I was asked to speak with the watch commander." That is all he says. It is more than enough. It is everything he needs to say. It is a reasonable, factual, non-threatening statement delivered in a calm and cooperative tone to a uniformed officer in a public building. And it should result in exactly one thing, which is the officer saying something like, "I'll let him know you're here," or "What's the name and the meeting about?" or any of the 1,000 ordinary professional responses that should follow when a civilian arrives at a police station and states their business politely and without drama. That is not what happens. What happens is that Garrett Cole grabs Marcus Webb by the collar of his jacket with one hand and uses that grip to shove him backward and sideways into the nearest wall. The impact is hard enough that the plaster cracks. A small cloud of white dust falls. Marcus's head snaps back from the force of it. His eyes water, but he does not cry out. He does not raise his hands. He does not struggle. He keeps his hands visible at his sides, and his breathing as controlled as he can make it, while his back is pressed against a cracked wall and a man's fist is twisted into the front of his jacket. Cole's face is close to his. Too close. The way Cole's face is positioned is a deliberate tactic, the kind used to intimidate, to make someone feel surrounded and small and off balance. Cole says, "Your kind doesn't belong in this building." And then, as if to make the point with absolute clarity, he reaches out and rips the visitor badge from Marcus's jacket pocket, the badge Marcus picked up at the front desk when he came in, the badge that marks him as a civilian visitor with legitimate business in the building, and throws it on the floor. Then he spits, not on Marcus, but near his feet, a calculated gesture of contempt that is somehow worse for being so controlled, so deliberate. Like it is something Cole has done before. Like it is something Cole does. The lobby does not stop. That is the thing that Marcus notices even through the sharp pain in his back and the tightness in his chest. The lobby does not stop. Conversations keep going. Radios keep crackling. Someone near the coffee machine laughs at something. A sergeant walks past 4 feet away carrying a stack of transfer files. She sees Marcus pinned against the wall. She sees Cole's fist in his collar. She sees the cracked plaster and the badge on the floor. She does not stop. She does not slow down. She does not change her expression. She keeps walking. Her footsteps don't even hesitate. And that moment, that particular moment of someone seeing and choosing not to see, lands in Marcus's chest with a weight he recognizes from a long time ago. From his brother's phone calls. From the things Darius used to describe when he talked about his experiences in this city. That feeling of being invisible in the worst possible way, visible enough to be targeted, invisible enough that no one helps. Marcus speaks again. His voice is steady despite everything. He says, "I'm here for tomorrow morning's ceremony." 8 a.m. Cole's grip tightens. Something moves across his face. Something that might be confusion, or might be the faint, distant early tremor of something he cannot name yet, but that his body is already beginning to process. He doesn't know what tomorrow's ceremony is. He doesn't know who this man is. He knows that he doesn't like the way this man is looking at him. He knows that this man is not afraid, and that bothers him more than anything else. Cole says, "You're not going anywhere until I say so." and he drags Marcus away from the wall and begins moving him toward the back of the building, toward the hallways that lead away from the public lobby and into the parts of the precinct that civilians do not see. Sergeant Dana Voss materializes as if from nowhere. She is tall, efficient, professional-looking in the way that people who have learned to make their cruelty look like procedure are professional-looking. She has been with the department for 16 years. She knows how to read a situation. She reads this one in about 2 seconds and falls into step immediately, positioning herself on the other side of Marcus, boxing him in. Her body language communicates clearly to anyone watching that this man is being escorted for a reason, that this is an official and legitimate action being taken by officers performing their duties. It is not. But it looks like it is. That is the point. Marcus says, clearly and calmly, loud enough to be heard, "I need to speak with your watch commander." This was coordinated through the mayor's office. Cole laughs. It is a short, cold sound. He says, "The mayor's office." Sure it was. And he keeps walking. And Marcus keeps walking, because he is not going to give them the justification they are looking for. And the three of them move down the hallway that smells like old coffee and industrial cleaner and years of other people's fear. And the door to interrogation room 3 opens, and Marcus Webb is shoved inside. Interrogation room 3 is 8 feet by 10 feet. There is a metal table bolted to the floor. There are 3 chairs. There is a camera mounted in the upper corner of the room. The red recording light is off. Marcus notices that immediately. He files it. He sits in the chair they indicate, and he folds his hands on the table, and he breathes. He has been in rooms like this before in his professional life. As a negotiator, as an investigator, he has sat across the table from desperate people in desperate situations, and he knows what these rooms feel like and what they are designed to do. They are designed to make you feel small. The low ceiling, the harsh fluorescent light, the metal of the table under your hands, the camera that may or may not be recording, the way the air seems slightly stale, slightly used. It is all engineered to press down on you, to make the room feel like it has weight, to make you feel like speaking is the only way out, and that speaking means confessing. Marcus does not feel small. He feels, if anything, a profound and painful sadness. Because his brother sat in a room like this one, and he was scared, and he was sick, and he was already in crisis before he arrived, and the room pressed down on him, and the men in the room pressed down on him, and nobody helped, and now Marcus is in the same room, and the same men are here. Cole is standing behind him now. That is another tactic, positioning yourself behind the subject so they cannot see you without turning, so their instinct to track movement and potential threat is constantly triggered, so they feel surrounded even when there are only 2 people in the room. Cole puts his hands on Marcus's shoulders and presses down. Not enough to leave obvious marks, enough to hurt. He says, "Let's try this again. Why are you really here?" Marcus says, "That is a conversation for your captain." Cole comes around the table. He gets close. He leans in. He says, "You're in my house now. You tell me what I want to know, or this gets a lot worse for you." Marcus looks at him directly. No fear in his eyes. No submission. Something else. Something that Cole cannot quite read, and that is making him increasingly uncomfortable. Marcus says, "I know exactly what you're doing right now." Not anger when he says it. Not a threat. Just a statement of fact, delivered with the calm of someone reading from a document. "I know the technique. I know the room. I know the camera is off, and I know why it's off. I know that Sergeant Voss is by the door, and that she's there to be a witness to whatever story you need her to confirm. I've studied this. I've seen the records from this room." Cole feels something shift. He does not know why. He cannot name it yet. But something about this man is wrong. Wrong in the sense that it doesn't fit. Wrong in the sense that every person Cole has put in this chair has eventually started explaining, apologizing, backpedaling, trying to make it stop. This man just sits there with his hands folded and talks like he's reading from a report. Cole says, check his phone. Get his passcode. Dana Voss moves forward and takes Marcus's phone from his jacket pocket. She holds it out. Marcus says, no, I won't give you my passcode. That is a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights, and you know it. Voss says, from her position by the door, loudly enough to establish the record, subject is becoming uncooperative. That is not what is happening. What is happening is that Marcus Webb is asserting his legal rights in a legal and appropriate manner. But in this room, the story told by the people with badges is the story that gets written in the report, and Dana Voss has been writing this particular kind of report for 16 years, and she is very good at it. Cole grabs Marcus by the collar again. This time, he does not just jerk. He lifts him partially out of the chair. Marcus's hands come up instinctively, the way anyone's hands come up when they are being lifted off a seat, not to fight, not to resist, just the automatic physical response of a body trying to maintain its balance. Voss says, loudly, he's resisting. And then Cole does something that crosses the line that Marcus knew from the moment he walked into this building that Cole was going to cross. He slams Marcus's head forward, hard and fast. Marcus's forehead connects with the edge of the metal table. The sound it makes is sharp and wet at the same time. Marcus slumps back in the chair. Blood begins to run from a cut above his eyebrow. It drips down his face and onto his collar and onto the table. Voss does not move from the door. Cole steps back. His knuckles are white. His face is flushed. He is breathing hard. He says, "You shouldn't have resisted." Marcus touches his forehead. His fingers come away red. He looks at them for a long moment. Then, he looks up at Cole. And his eyes are still steady, still focused, still completely present. He says, "This is exactly what you did 3 years ago." Cole freezes. He says, "What?" Marcus says, 3 years ago. This same room. My brother. His name was Darius Webb. And something happens to Garrett Cole's face that Marcus has been waiting 3 years to see. The recognition. The knowledge. The moment when the man who has been carrying this secret, who has been banking on this secret staying buried forever, understands that it is not buried. That it has been found. That it is standing right in front of him with blood on its face and hands folded on the table. The door opens. Officer Tyler Reeves stands there. He is 26 years old. He has been on the force for 6 months. He is still in his probationary period, which means he can be dismissed without cause. Which means that what he has been doing for the past hour, standing outside interrogation room 3 with his recording app open and his phone positioned to capture as much of what is happening inside as possible through the narrow window, is an act of genuine courage. He has a printed schedule in his hand. His eyes go wide when he sees the blood. Cole says, "Report." "What did you find?" Reeves says, "Sir, there is something on the tomorrow's schedule. 8 a.m. A swearing and ceremony." His voice is careful and controlled. Mayor's office confirmed. City council, state representatives, all attending. Cole snatches the paper from Reeves's hands and reads it. His lips move. His face goes through several things in rapid succession. Disbelief, then recognition, then something that might be the beginning of fear. He crumples the paper and throws it in the corner. He tells Reeves to leave. Reeves leaves. But before he does, his eyes meet Marcus's for just a second. Something passes between them. Understanding. The door closes. Dana Voss locks it. The click of the lock in the silence of the room is loud. Voss moves to her bag near the door. She pulls out a pre-printed arrest form, the kind of form that implies practice, the kind of form that no officer should have pre-printed and ready to go. She begins filling it out with the smooth efficiency of someone who has done this many times before. Cole kneels in front of Marcus. He gets to eye level. He says, in a voice that has changed, become almost conversational, almost friendly, in a way that is worse than the shouting. Let me explain how this works. You came in here making threats. You became aggressive when I tried to verify your identity. I had to defend myself. Sergeant Voss witnessed everything. Officer Reeves will confirm the timeline. That's 3 sworn officers against 1 man with no credentials and no verified story. I don't have a history, Marcus says. You do now, Cole says. He stands. He moves to the door. When Marcus speaks again, his voice carries something new. Not volume. Not anger. Something quieter and more absolute than either. He says, your career ends tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. when I walk into that ceremony and take my oath as chief of police. Cole turns back. He says, what are you talking about? Marcus says, I'm talking about the fact that you just assaulted your commanding officer in front of witnesses with cameras running in the hallway during shift change, when half this department can verify that I entered this building peacefully, stated my business clearly, and was immediately attacked without justification. Cole says, you're bluffing. But something in his voice has changed. The certainty is gone. The ceremony is real. Reeves confirmed it, and this man speaks with a specificity that does not fit bluffing. Marcus says, my name is Marcus Webb. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I am sworn in as your new chief of police, and the first investigation I am opening is into what happened to my brother Darius Webb, who died in this exact room 3 years ago. Cole's face goes from red to white. All the blood drains out of it. He stands against the wall, and he looks like something inside him has broken. He whispers, Darius Webb. That was your brother. Marcus says he called 911 because he was having a mental health crisis. He needed help. He was scared, and he was asking the right people for help, and you beat him to death instead. Then you wrote it up as a medical emergency. Then you had Sergeant Voss alter the evidence logs. Then you had Deputy Commander Holloway sign off on a falsified report. Cole slides down the wall until he is sitting on the floor. Marcus continues, his voice never rising, never breaking, each word placed with the precision of someone who has been rehearsing this moment for 3 years. He says, 43 violations of department protocol, 18 civil rights violations, 3 felonies, all covered up by this station, all documented, all waiting for tomorrow morning when the federal grand jury hands down indictments. Cole says, you came here on purpose. You wanted this to happen. Marcus says, I came here for a meeting. You chose to assault me. That is entirely on you. Cole says, you're wearing a wire. Marcus says, I'm not wearing anything. I didn't need to. Your own officers documented everything. Cole's eyes go to the door. He says, Brooks. Reeves. He's a young officer. He hasn't been here long enough to understand how things work. Marcus says he's been here long enough to understand when orders violate the oath he took, and he made his choice. Voss moves to her radio. She says, we need to call Holloway now. Marcus says, Holloway cannot help you. He is part of this. He has been accepting payments from a man named Vincent Taylor for 3 years, $340,000, all traced, all documented, all already in federal hands. Dana Voss puts the radio to her mouth, and her voice is urgent but controlled. She calls Deputy Commander Holloway to interrogation room 3. Immediate. Marcus sits at the table with blood drying on his face. He does not ask for medical attention. He does not demand a lawyer. He sits with his hands folded, and he waits. Cole paces the small room. 3 steps one way, 3 steps back. He cannot stop moving. His mind is running through every conversation he has had in the past 3 years, every decision, every report. Every night he told himself it was fine, it was handled, the file was closed, and it was not going to come back. It is coming back. It has walked through the front door in civilian clothes and sat down at his table and bled on his floor, and now there is nothing he can do to stop it. He says, "You can't prove any of it." Marcus says, "I don't have to. Federal investigators already did. FBI, Department of Justice, Inspector General's office. They have been building this case for 18 months. Tonight was the final test. Voss's radio crackles. Holloway's voice comes through. On my way." And 2 minutes later, Deputy Commander Raymond Holloway fills the doorway. He is 56 years old, and he is large, and he is wearing the kind of accessories that do not match a civil servant's salary. Custom boots, an expensive watch that catches the light, the kind of things you buy when money stops being something you worry about, when the deposits come in twice a month like clockwork. He looks at the room. He takes in the blood on the table, Cole against the wall, Voss by the door, and Marcus Webb sitting in the middle of it all, still calm, hands folded, watching him the way a surgeon watches a patient that has been opened up. Holloway says, "Someone want to tell me what happened here?" Cole says he's claiming to be the new chief. His voice is shaking. Says there's a ceremony tomorrow. Holloway's face does not change. He says, "Is there?" Cole says Reeves confirmed it. 8 a.m., mayor's attending. Holloway walks slowly into the room. He studies Marcus the way you study something that you cannot yet categorize. He says, "Mr. Webb, you're bleeding. Can I get you medical attention?" Marcus says, "After I speak with my attorney." Holloway says, "Of course. But help me understand what happened here. Officer Cole says you became aggressive during a routine identification check." Marcus says, "Officer Cole is lying." Holloway says that's a serious accusation. Marcus says, "It's the truth. He assaulted me the moment I entered this building, grabbed my throat and slammed me against the wall hard enough to crack the plaster. Called me a name I won't repeat in polite company. Then brought me here and assaulted me further while Sergeant Voss watched and did nothing, and then prepared a false arrest form." Holloway looks at Voss. Voss meets his gaze without blinking. 16 years of practice. Holloway says, "Sergeant Voss, is that an accurate account?" Voss says, "No, sir. Subject became combative when Officer Cole requested identification." Holloway says, "I see." He turns back to Marcus. "It's your word against 2 sworn officers." Marcus says, "Is it?" Because Officer Reeves was in the lobby during the initial encounter. He documented everything. The lobby cameras and hallway cameras document everything. Dispatch has the entry logs. Holloway's jaw tightens, just barely. Just enough that Marcus notices it. Holloway pulls a chair out and sits down across from Marcus. His voice changes. It gets softer, friendlier. The way a voice gets when it is trying to manage a situation rather than resolve it. He says, "Mr. Webb, let's be realistic. You have injuries. You're claiming assault. But you're also claiming to be someone who, as of this morning, this department had no notification about. It's possible someone gave you information about tomorrow's ceremony, and you thought you could use that to your advantage. Let me be direct with you. The most sensible outcome here is that we get you medical attention, we work out exactly what happened, and we move forward in a way that's good for everyone." Marcus says, "I was appointed by Mayor Garfield 6 weeks ago. My appointment was confirmed by City Council 2 weeks ago. My background is FBI crisis negotiation. Before that, United States Marine Corps, Medal of Honor, awarded for actions in Kandahar Province. My name is on the ceremony program. My photograph is in the mayor's press package. I am the incoming chief of police. And you know it. The specificity of it stops Holloway for a moment. These are checkable facts, the kind that a bluffer would not use. Holloway says, "If everything you're saying is true, why didn't anyone inform the department?" Marcus says, "Because Mayor Garfield wanted to observe how this department would respond to an unknown black man walking in during shift change. He wanted to see if the complaints the city has been receiving for the past 3 years were accurate. He wanted to test the culture before putting someone in charge of changing it. And I insisted on it, because my brother died in this room 3 years ago, and I needed to see for myself whether anything had changed." Holloway stands slowly. He says, "Those are extremely serious allegations. Do you have evidence to support them?" Marcus says, "All of it. Financial records showing your payments from Vincent Taylor. Evidence room logs showing Sergeant Voss's falsifications. Radio transcripts from the night my brother died. Medical examiner reports that contradict the official story. Witness statements from 43 families. Bank transfers. Text messages. Emails. Every piece of evidence that will be presented tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. when the federal grand jury hands down indictments." Holloway puts his phone away and looks at Cole and Voss. He says, "How bad is it?" Cole doesn't answer. Voss looks at the floor. Cole says, "Finally, sir, if he's telling the truth." Holloway says, "He's not. But if he is, then we have a problem." Cole says, "We have a problem." Holloway says, "Then we manage it. We still have all night. The ceremony isn't until tomorrow morning. We have time to control the narrative." Marcus's voice cuts through the room like something surgical. He says, "You're planning to have me transferred to county lockup. Lose the paperwork. Hold me for 48 hours without arraignment. Long enough for the ceremony to happen without me. Long enough to create doubt about who I am." Holloway almost smiles. He says, "You're very perceptive." Marcus says, "It's exactly what you did to Darius. Held him overnight. By morning, he was dead. Your report said medical emergency, except the autopsy showed blunt force trauma to 17 different locations on his body." Holloway moves toward the door. He says, "Sergeant Voss, Officer Cole, process him. Transfer to county by 10 p.m. I'll handle the mayor's office." Marcus says, "You can't." Holloway says, "I'm deputy commander. This is my precinct. And until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., you are a suspect in custody." He stops at the door. He turns back. He says, "One more thing, Mr. Webb. Your brother's case was tragic. But it was closed. The medical examiner ruled natural causes, complicated by pre-existing conditions. There was no evidence of assault, no signs of struggle. A sad situation where someone experiencing a mental health episode suffered cardiac arrest while in custody. That's the official record. Signed by the chief medical examiner, reviewed by internal affairs, approved by the district attorney's office. Good luck proving otherwise." And he leaves. The door closes. Cole and Voss look at each other. Then, at Marcus. Voss says, "We need to move him before night shift arrives." Cole is staring at Marcus with something new in his face. Not anger. Fear. He says, quietly, "He knew." What? He knew exactly what Holloway would say. He knew about the transfer plan. He knew everything we were going to do before we did it. "So what?" Voss says. "So that means someone told him," Cole says. "Someone inside. Someone who knows how we operate." Marcus says, "You're right. Several someones, actually. People who have been watching the station for 18 months. People who are a great deal closer than you think." The fire alarm screams through the building. Cole's eyes narrow. Protocol says he has to respond. Protocol also says he cannot leave a detainee unattended. He says, "Voss, stay with him." And he is gone. The door closes. Voss and Marcus are alone. Voss's hand goes to her radio. She is about to call for backup when Marcus speaks. He says, "Dispatcher Clara Hollins is in dispatch right now, pulling every radio log from the past 3 years." Officer Tyler Reeves has 17 minutes of video documentation already uploaded to 3 separate cloud servers. FBI Special Agent Sandra Prentice is in your parking lot with DOJ Attorney James Carter and Mayor Garfield. They are waiting for my signal. Voss's hand freezes. She says, "You're lying." Marcus says, "Open your phone. Look at the parking lot camera." Voss pulls out her phone with shaking hands. She opens the security app. She switches to the exterior camera feed. She sees 3 black SUVs with federal license plates. She sees people in FBI windbreakers standing near the building entrance. She sees a town car she recognizes as belonging to the mayor's office. Her face goes pale, not gradually, all at once, like a sheet pulled from a window. She says, No. We were careful. We were so careful." Marcus says, "You were sloppy. Every altered evidence entry in the evidence room has your signature on it. Every single one. The radio transcripts from the night my brother died don't match the official report, and the timestamp discrepancies are visible to anyone who looks. The financial deposits to your personal account correlate exactly with the dates that evidence disappeared from files. You left a trail, Sergeant Voss. And investigators have been following it for 1.5 years. The fire alarm cuts off. The silence that follows is worse than the noise was. Voss's radio crackles. False alarm. All units return to stations. That was Reeves, Marcus says. He activated that alarm to create enough chaos for the evidence copies to be completed and for the federal units to get into position. You have approximately 5 minutes before that door opens, and this is over. Voss slides down the door until she is sitting on the floor. Her hand does not go to her weapon. She just sits there, staring at nothing, and for a long moment the room is completely quiet. Then she speaks. "Darius," she says. "That night, 3 years ago, he kept saying he couldn't breathe. He kept asking for help. Cole wouldn't stop. I told him to stop. I said we needed to call medical. He said just 5 more minutes. Darius died in 7 minutes. I know," Marcus says. "I timed it. I watched the clock on the wall in the photographs Reeves found. I watched my brother die by the second hand. And you stood there." Voss says, "I was scared. Cole said if I reported it, we'd both go down. Holloway said he'd handle everything. I have a daughter in college. I have a mortgage. I have a pension I've been building for 16 years. I was a coward, and I have known it every day for 3 years, and I have not slept a full night since." Marcus looks at her. There is no mercy in his face. But there is no cruelty either. There is something more complex. There is a man who understands the difference between someone who pulled the trigger and someone who handed the gun and said nothing. Both of them are in this room. The door opens. Tyler Reeves stands there. Behind him, 3 people in FBI jackets, and behind them, Mayor Thomas Garfield, who is not answering Deputy Commander Holloway's calls because he is already inside the building and has been for the past 4 minutes. Special Agent Sandra Prentice says, "Mr. Webb, we need to get you to medical." Marcus stands slowly. He says, "Not yet. We finish this first." Special Agent Sandra Prentice and DOJ Attorney James Carter enter the interrogation room together. Mayor Garfield steps in behind them. The afternoon light is almost gone now, the narrow windows showing only the dark blue of early evening, and the fluorescent lights have taken over completely, harsh and unsparing, the kind of light that makes everything look like evidence. Cole returns from the false alarm. He steps into the doorway and stops when he sees the federal agents. His face goes through confusion, then recognition, then something that might be the last moment before a very long fall. Prentice shows her credentials. She says, "I'm Special Agent Sandra Prentice, Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is Attorney James Carter from the Department of Justice. We need you to step away from Mr. Webb immediately. Cole says, he's under arrest. Prentice says, he was never legally detained. Nothing that has occurred in this building over the past 90 minutes constitutes a lawful detention. It constitutes assault, false imprisonment, and a violation of federal civil rights law, and all of it has been documented. Carter moves to Marcus's side. He photographs Marcus's injuries with his phone. Each photo is time-stamped and geotagged. Each one is admissible. Mayor Garfield steps forward. His voice, when he speaks, is cold and precise. He says, "Deputy Commander Holloway, as of this moment, you are relieved of duty pending federal investigation." Holloway appears in the doorway. He has been trying to reach the mayor for the past 10 minutes and has been getting voicemail, and now he understands why. He sees the room, the crowd, the federal agents, Marcus Webb sitting at the table with his injuries documented and his composure intact. Holloway says, "Mayor, I can explain." Garfield says, "Save it for your attorney. You're going to need one." Prentice turns to Cole and Voss. She says, "Both of you, hands visible. Do not reach for your weapons or your radios. Stand still." Cole's face is completely white. His lips are moving, but producing no sound. Reeves speaks from the hallway. He says, "Agent Prentice, the video documentation is ready to review." Prentice says, "Conference room A." Everyone moves. They walk through the station hallways, and word moves faster than they do. By the time they reach conference room A, officers are stopping in the hallways, stepping back from their desks, watching. Everyone knows something seismic is happening. They do not yet know exactly what, but they can feel the particular gravity of it, the kind of thing that happens once in a career, once in a department's history, the kind of thing that divides time into before and after. Conference room A is long and fluorescent lit, with a table down the middle and a screen at one end. Reeves connects his phone to the laptop. Marcus sits at the head of the table. Mayor Garfield sits beside him. Prentice and Carter flank the other side. Cole, Voss, and Holloway are positioned at the far end of the table, and their attorneys, who have been called and have arrived with impressive speed, sit beside them. Before we review the evidence, Mayor Garfield says, "I want to make something absolutely clear to everyone in this room and to everyone watching through that window." He gestures at the glass panel where officers are gathered. Mr. Marcus Webb is the duly appointed chief of police for this city. His appointment was confirmed by City Council 2 weeks ago. His background was thoroughly vetted by multiple agencies. His swearing-in ceremony is scheduled for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. He pauses. The purpose of his visit here today was to conduct a final site inspection and meet with outgoing command staff. The decision not to announce his identity in advance was deliberate, because this city's residents have been filing complaints about this precinct for 3 years, and we needed to know whether those complaints were accurate. Cole makes a sound, not words, just a sound. Holloway's attorney says, "This constitutes entrapment." Garfield says this constitutes a test that your client failed with historic completeness. Prentice gestures to Reeves. She says, "Officer Reeves, please begin the footage." The screen lights up. The timestamp in the corner reads 17:30, 5:30 p.m., the lobby. Shift change. Officers moving. Marcus Webb entering. Civilian clothes. Both hands visible. Non-threatening. Not moving quickly. Not making loud noises. Not doing anything that any reasonable observer would describe as suspicious or aggressive or threatening. And then Cole. Crossing the lobby. The way he moves toward Marcus is not the way you move towards someone who has raised an alarm. It is the way you move towards something you have already decided about. The audio picks up clearly. Another kind of man who thinks he can walk into my station. The grab. The slam. The crack of the plaster. The badge ripped away and thrown to the ground. Cole's words, "Your kind doesn't belong in this building." Then the sergeant walking past, seeing everything, keeping walking, every moment crystal clear, every word on record, every action documented in time-stamped sequence. Cole closes his eyes. He cannot watch. But the footage continues. It continues through the hallway and into interrogation room 3 and through the window of IR3 where Reeves had positioned his phone and documented everything, including the moment Cole slammed Marcus's head into the table edge, including the blood, including Marcus saying, "This is exactly what you did 3 years ago," including Cole's face in that moment, the exact moment when the color left it. Prentice pauses the video on that image. She says, "Note the physical response. This is not the face of someone who doesn't understand the reference. This is the face of someone who does." She advances the footage to the moment where Marcus says his brother's name, where he says Darius Webb, and Cole's body against the wall, the slide to the floor, the shaking hands. Prentice says, "Let's review this systematically." Timeline for today. Timestamp 17:30, initial contact. Officer Cole approaches Mr. Webb without cause and immediately uses language establishing racial animus. Timestamp 17:32, physical contact, assault, property damage. No threatening action on Mr. Webb's part preceding or justifying this contact. Timestamp 17:39, illegal transport to IR3. No Miranda warning, no booking procedure, no notification to watch commander, no lawful basis for detention. Timestamp 17:46, direct physical violence resulting in visible injury. She looks at Cole. She does not look at him with anger. She looks at him with the flat professional clarity of someone describing a physical law. She says, "Officer Cole, your pattern of behavior on this footage is consistent with a pattern of behavior documented across a period of 3 years at this precinct." Which brings us to the second layer of this investigation. Carter switches to a different file. The screen shows a name, Darius Webb. Age 38. African-American male. Died in custody at this precinct 3 years ago on May 16th. Carter reads the official report. Subject became combative during welfare check. Officers used necessary force to restrain. Subject experienced medical emergency. Pronounced dead at County Medical Center. That, Carter says, is the official record. Here is what the radio logs say. Clara Hollins enters the room. She has been with the department for 25 years as dispatch supervisor. She is carrying a banker's box. She pulls out a file. She says, "Initial call, 17:40, 3 hours. Darius Webb called 911 himself. I took the call. He said he was scared. He said he was having a panic attack. He said he didn't want to hurt anyone. He asked for help. Please send someone. I can't breathe right. I'm scared. I don't want to hurt anyone. I just need help." That is what he said, word for word. I have kept a copy of that transcript for 3 years. Prentice says, first responders arrived at the scene at 17:56. Officers Ramirez and Johnson, both of whom have since provided written statements. Their radio traffic indicates the subject was cooperative, frightened, but not aggressive. They called for mental health services. They were in the process of de-escalating the situation when Officer Cole and Sergeant Voss arrived and took over. Carter says, at 18:14, Cole and Voss arrived and dismissed the mental health response team. What follows in the radio logs is silence, because Officer Cole switched to a channel that is not recorded. But we have the statements of Officers Ramirez and Johnson, both of whom report that Darius Webb was calm and cooperative when they handed him over to Cole and Voss. The next documented contact with Darius Webb is from the medical examiner at approximately 2200 hours. 10 p.m. Carter brings up the medical examiner's report. He reads, blunt force trauma to the head, neck, torso, and extremities. 17 distinct impact sites, broken ribs, fractured orbital bone, ruptured spleen. The official ruling, he says, was that these injuries were caused by a fall during a physical struggle. He looks up. He looks around the room. He says 17 impact sites. A fall. He does not say anything further. The room absorbs it. A photograph appears on the screen. Darius Webb's injuries, documented before the official report was sanitized. The room is quiet in the way that rooms get quiet when they are confronted with something that cannot be argued with, only absorbed. Marcus looks at the photograph. He has seen it before. He has looked at it many times in the course of preparing this case. It never stops meaning what it means. He keeps his face still. His hands are folded. Prentice says, compare those injuries to the injuries sustained by Chief Webb today. Head slammed into table edge. Same room. Same officer. Same pattern of violence. Same absence of any lawful justification. She turns to a new set of documents. Deputy Commander Raymond Holloway, she says. Annual salary, $93,000. Over the past 3 years, deposits totaling $340,000 have been made to accounts connected to the deputy commander through a series of shell companies. She advances through the transactions, one after another, dates and amounts and account numbers. Each transaction highlighted. Each one traced. These payments originate from shell companies registered to Vincent Taylor, who is currently serving 15 years in federal prison for drug trafficking. In exchange for these payments, evidence disappeared from this precinct's evidence room. Cases were lost. Complaints were buried. 52 cases over 3 years show evidence that was falsified, misdated, misplaced, or destroyed. Sergeant Dana Voss supervised the evidence room during this entire period. Her signature appears on every altered entry log. Every single one. Carter says, including the evidence connected to the death of Darius Webb, the original photographs documenting the full extent of his injuries, gone. The written statements from officers Ramirez and Johnson describing his condition on arrival, gone. The mental health evaluator's intake assessment, gone. The phone recording of the 911 call, which we recovered from backup servers the city was not aware still existed, gone from the official file. What remained in the file was a sanitized document supporting the narrative that a mentally ill man became violent, struggled with officers, and died of natural causes. Signed by Deputy Commander Holloway. Reviewed and cleared by Internal Affairs. Approved by the District Attorney's Office. Case closed. Cole speaks. His voice is barely a whisper. He says, I didn't mean for him to die. His attorney grabs his arm and says, don't say another word. Cole is not listening. He says he wouldn't stop talking. He just kept crying. He kept saying he was scared. I just wanted him to stop. I just wanted 5 minutes of quiet. I didn't mean for him to die. Marcus says, you beat my brother to death. Cole's voice breaks. He says, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Marcus says, you're sorry because you got caught. If I had not walked through that door today, you would still be doing this. Every week. Every month. Every time someone came through that door and looked a certain way, or spoke a certain way, or needed a certain kind of help, you would still be doing this, and my brother would still be dead, and nothing would ever change. He looks at Holloway. He says, and you would still be collecting your payments. Holloway says nothing. His expensive watch is suddenly the most conspicuous thing in the room. Prentice stands. She says, Deputy Commander Raymond Holloway, you are under arrest on federal charges of conspiracy to violate civil rights, evidence tampering, accessory to manslaughter, and bribery. Officer Garrett Cole, you are under arrest for assault under color of authority, false imprisonment, evidence tampering, and civil rights violations resulting in death. Sergeant Dana Voss, you are under arrest for conspiracy to violate civil rights, evidence tampering, and accessory to felony assault. 3 federal agents enter the room. They have handcuffs. Cole does not resist. He simply sits there and lets them put the cuffs on him, and he keeps saying, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Like a loop that has gotten stuck. Like a record that has run past the last groove and is just repeating the silence between songs over and over. Voss is silent. Her face is closed down in a way that looks like someone who has already begun the long process of not being present in her own story. Holloway tries one more time. He says, "This is politically motivated. The mayor is using this station as a prop for a political narrative." His attorney says, "Don't." Holloway stops. Marcus stands. He walks to where Cole is sitting with his hands cuffed behind him. He stands in front of him and looks down, and he says, "You asked me who I was. I am Marcus Webb. I am the Medal of Honor recipient for actions in Kandahar province, where I carried 2 wounded Marines through direct fire to the medevac point. I am the FBI crisis negotiator who spent 6 years talking people back from the edge of the worst moments of their lives. I am the specialist in institutional reform who has rebuilt 3 broken departments from the inside out. And as of tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., I am your chief of police." Cole looks up. His face is completely drained. He says, "This was a test. And you failed," Marcus says. "But my brother didn't get a test. He just called for help. And then, he died." Marcus turns to face the rest of the room. Through the glass panel, officers are watching. They have been watching for a long time. The hallway is packed. Word has moved through every floor of the building. He raises his voice so that it carries through the glass. He says, "My name is Marcus Webb. Tomorrow morning, I take command of this department. Tonight, you saw what I will not accept. Tomorrow, you will begin to learn what I intend to build. Those of you who have kept your integrity in a place that made it difficult and dangerous to do so, you are my foundation. Those who have enabled or covered for what you saw in this room tonight, you have until tomorrow morning to come forward voluntarily. After that, every file in this building gets audited. Every case gets reviewed. Every signature gets traced." Reeves speaks from the back of the room. He says, "Chief Webb, there are a lot of us who have been waiting for this. Not everyone here is dirty." Marcus says, "I know that, Detective Reeves. I know it because you are standing there. Your first assignment as Detective Reeves, effective tomorrow, is to help me find the rest of them." The officers in the hallway begin to applaud. Quietly at first, then louder. Marcus holds up his hand. He says, "Don't applaud me. I'm not here for applause. I'm here because my brother deserved better than what this building gave him. I'm here because 43 families are still waiting for phone calls that should have come 3 years ago. I'm here because this city deserves a police department they can trust to pick up the phone when they are scared and in crisis and reaching out to the only people they can think of." He looks at Cole one final time. He says, "You are going to prison for a very long time. But at least everyone will know Darius Webb's name. At least everyone will know what happened to him. At least he will not be forgotten." After the federal agents lead Cole and Voss and Holloway out of the room, Marcus asks for a moment alone in interrogation room 3. Everyone clears out. He walks down the hallway and opens the door and steps inside. The room is empty. The harsh light is the same. The metal table is the same. There is a stain on the concrete floor that was never quite fully cleaned. Marcus touches the wall. He stands there for a long time, quiet, his hand flat against the plaster. He says so quietly that no one could possibly hear him, "I'm sorry I wasn't here. I'm sorry it took 3 years. But they know now. Everyone knows. You're not forgotten, Darius. You're not erased. Clara Hollins appears in the doorway. She says, Chief Webb, your brother would be proud. Marcus says, he shouldn't have had to die for this. Clara says no, but at least his death leads somewhere now. That is something. That is more than most people get. Marcus nods. He takes one more look at the room. Then he walks out. Tomorrow morning, this building becomes his responsibility, and he intends to make sure it becomes something his brother would have recognized as a place where help actually means help. In the parking lot, the federal SUVs are still running. The evening has gone fully dark. The station is lit up from inside. Officers are moving differently than they were an hour ago. More carefully. More deliberately. Like people who have just been reminded that everything is always being recorded by something, even when the red light is off. Some of them look ashamed. Some of them look relieved. Some of them look like they have been quietly waiting for exactly this moment for a very long time, and are only now allowing themselves to let that show. Marcus Webb gets into the car with Mayor Garfield. The mayor says, "You're sure you're all right?" Marcus says, "I've been hit harder." The mayor says, "You didn't have to do it this way. You could have walked in tomorrow with full authority and every protection." Marcus says, "I needed to see it for myself. I needed to know." The mayor says, "And now you know." Marcus says, "And now I know. Now I can build something. You can't build on a foundation you haven't tested. You have to know what it will hold." Garfield looks at him for a long moment. He says, "Your brother would have been proud." Marcus says, "He would have made a better chief than me. He was always the better of the two of us." Garfield says, "Maybe. But you're the one who's here." Marcus says, "Yes, I am." And they drive, and the station disappears behind them in the side mirrors, and Marcus Webb closes his eyes for the first time in hours and breathes. 2 hours later. City Hall. 8 a.m. The ceremony hall is full in the way that public events are full when something important is actually happening and not just being performed. Cameras line the back wall. City council members sit in the front row. State representatives. Community leaders. Legal advocates. Journalists who have been covering the story that broke overnight about federal arrests at the 4th Precinct, who have been trying to connect the dots, who are about to have the dots connected for them very clearly. And in the front row, in the seat next to the empty chair that is waiting for Marcus, Eleanor Webb. She is 68 years old, and she is wearing a deep violet dress and a small hat, and she is holding a photograph of Darius pinned to her collar, a photograph she printed herself from the image Marcus brought her the night before, a photograph of Darius at 35 at a family birthday party, laughing at something someone just said, caught in the middle of the laugh, head back, completely himself, completely alive. Mayor Garfield approaches the podium. The room settles. He says, "Today, we mark a turning point. We acknowledge, publicly and without evasion, the failures of the past. We commit, with full institutional force and federal oversight, to the reforms that these failures have made necessary. And we welcome a new chief of police who comes to us not as an outsider imposing change, but as someone with profound personal investment in getting it right." He pauses. 3 days ago, the man we are swearing in today was brutally and racially attacked by officers of this department in the lobby of the 4th Precinct, during shift change, in front of witnesses, with cameras running. He was attacked before he said more than 2 sentences, before he had done anything that could be described by any reasonable person as threatening or suspicious. He was attacked because of the color of his skin. And he sat in an interrogation room and bled and kept his composure and waited for the truth to do what the truth, when it is fully documented and federally supported, eventually, always does. The room, is completely quiet. Eleanor Webb's hand tightens on the photograph. Garfield says, "That attack was not an isolated incident. It was the expression of a culture of impunity, of violence protected by silence, of complaints filed and buried, of families left waiting for answers they deserved years ago. That culture ends today. Not because we say it ends, because we are going to spend the next 5 years proving it ends." "Chief Marcus Webb, please come forward." Marcus walks to the podium in full dress uniform. His Medal of Honor is visible on his chest. The stitches above his eyebrow are visible too. He has not tried to conceal them. They are part of the record now. They are part of the story. He places his right hand on the Bible his mother is holding forward toward him. The same Bible that was his father's. The same Bible that Darius used to read sometimes on Sunday mornings when he was having a hard week. Garfield says, "Do you swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the laws of this state? Do you swear to serve all citizens of this city with integrity, fairness, and equal respect? Do you swear to hold yourself and every officer under your command to the highest standards of conduct and accountability?" Marcus says, "I do. And I swear to honor every person who walks through the doors of this department, especially the ones who are scared, especially the ones who are in crisis, especially the ones who call for help and have no one else to call, especially those who have been let down by the people who were supposed to protect them. Then, by the authority vested in me as mayor of this city, I hereby appoint you Chief of Police." "Congratulations, Chief Webb." The room erupts. Eleanor Webb is on her feet. She is holding Darius's photograph up over her head. Tears are running down her face, but she is not trying to stop them. Marcus sees her from the podium, and he looks at his brother's face. His brother, in the middle of a laugh at a birthday party, completely alive and completely himself, and he nods. The applause continues for a full minute. When it finally settles, Marcus steps to the microphone. He says, "Thank you, Mayor Garfield. Thank you, City Council, for your confirmation of this appointment. Thank you, Mayor, for having the courage to make it the way you made it." He pauses. He looks at the cameras. He knows that what he says next will be on the evening news in every city in the country. He does not modulate for that. He says what he came to say. He says, 3 days ago I walked into the 4th precinct as a test. I wanted to see with my own eyes whether the complaints this city has been filing for 3 years were accurate. I wanted to see whether an unknown black man walking in during shift change would be treated with the basic respect that every person entering a police station has a right to expect. I wanted to see whether anything had changed since my brother Darius Webb died in custody at that station 3 years ago. He lets that sentence sit for a moment. He says, I learned that nothing had changed. The same officers who killed my brother attacked me within 30 seconds of my arrival. The same systems that covered up his death tried to cover up my assault. The same commanders who had been accepting payments to bury complaints tried to have me transferred overnight so that tomorrow morning's ceremony could happen without me. Nothing had changed. And then he says, but I also learned something else. I learned that there are good officers in that building, officers who have been trying to hold the line against a corrupt culture for years, with no support, and no backup, and no one in authority willing to listen to them. Officer Tyler Reeves, who has been on the force for 6 months, and who stood outside a locked interrogation room and documented everything, because he understood that doing the right thing was more important than his job security. Dispatcher Clara Hollins, who held evidence for 3 years in a box under her desk, waiting for someone to come who would use it. Officers who have filed complaints and had them buried. Officers who have raised concerns and been told to be quiet. Those officers are this department's real foundation. And starting today, they are going to be treated like it. He pauses again. He says, starting today, every officer in this department will wear a body camera that cannot be disabled without a supervisor override that is logged and reviewed. Starting today, this department will have a civilian oversight board with genuine investigative authority, not advisory capacity, actual authority to review complaints, compel testimony, and recommend discipline. Starting today, every officer in this department will complete crisis intervention training, not a 1-hour seminar, a 40-hour certification program, because the people who call 911 when they are in crisis deserve officers who know how to help them. Starting today, every complaint filed against an officer of this department will be assigned to an independent investigator and will receive a written response within 30 days. Starting today, the evidence room will be audited by federal oversight with full transparency. And starting today, every case from the past 5 years will be reviewed by a team that includes people who were not working in this building when those cases were filed. He looks at the cameras. He says, I am not here for revenge. I am here for reform. Reform that is specific and measurable and federally accountable. Reform that can be pointed to in 5 years as evidence that a department can change when the people running it decide that change matters more than protecting the people who should never have been protected. He looks at his mother. He says, softer now. My brother's name was Darius Webb. He was kind. He built things with his hands. He was funny in the particular way that people are funny when they are genuinely trying to make everyone around them feel better. He liked music. He liked to cook. He was 38 years old, and he was having a panic attack, and he called 911. Because that is what you are supposed to do when you need help, and you are scared, and you do not know what else to do. You call the people who are supposed to help. And they came. And they killed him. And then they erased him. Eleanor Webb is still standing. She is still holding the photograph up. In the front row, people are crying. Some of them are people who knew Darius. Some of them are strangers who recognize in his story the story of someone they loved. Some of them are officers who are crying because they know exactly what this precinct has been, and they are ashamed of it. And they have been ashamed of it for a long time. Marcus says, Darius did not get a second chance. He did not get to see this day. He did not get justice in his lifetime. But because of what happened to him, because of what the investigation of his death uncovered, because of 43 families who refused to stop filing complaints even when every complaint was buried, because of Clara Hollins keeping a box under her desk for 3 years, because of Tyler Reeves standing outside a door with his phone open, because of all of it, we can do something. We can make sure that the next person who calls for help actually gets it. We can make sure that being scared is not a crime. We can make sure that needing help does not cost you your life. He looks one more time at Eleanor and at Darius's face in the photograph. He says, this is for Darius, and for every person who went into a building asking for help and didn't come back out. The applause this time is different. It is quieter and heavier, and it comes from a different place than the first applause. It comes from the part of people that knows the difference between a ceremony and a reckoning. Marcus lets it settle. He steps back from the microphone. He shakes the mayor's hand. He shakes the city council president's hand. He walks to the front row and he takes his mother's hand, and she looks up at him, and she says, quietly, just to him, make it mean something. He says, I will, Mama. I promise. After the ceremony, Marcus goes directly to the station. He walks through the same lobby where he was attacked 3 days ago. The wall has been repaired. The plaster is fresh and white. But Marcus knows where the crack was, and he looks at it as he passes, and he keeps walking. Officers step back to let him through. Some of them salute immediately, sharply, with the precision of people who want him to know where they stand. Some of them make eye contact and nod, the kind of nod that contains a whole conversation. Some of them look at the floor, the ones who are still working out what side of the line they are on, the ones who are in the process of deciding whether to come forward voluntarily or wait for the audit to find them. Marcus notes each response and files it and keeps walking to the office that was, until 72 hours ago, Raymond Holloway's. It has been cleaned out. The expensive watch is gone. The custom decorations, the photographs of Holloway with politicians and civic figures who did not know what he was, all of it is gone. The room is bare and functional, and Marcus looks around it and thinks, good. Clara Hollins knocks on the open door. She is carrying a banker's box. She says, Chief Webb. These are the cold cases. Families that never got answers. Cases where the evidence was altered or disappeared, where the complaints were buried, where the files were closed before they should have been. There are 68 of them. I've kept the original complaint forms in chronological order. Each one has a name and a number and a family that is still waiting. Marcus looks at the box. He says, let's start at the beginning. Clara sets the box on the desk. She says, first case in the box is Daniel Monroe, 24 years old. Died in custody 8 months before your brother. Same circumstances, same officers listed in the file. Marcus opens the file. He reads the name. He reads the date. He reads the sparse and sanitized official account of a young man's death. He reads between the lines of that account the way he has learned to read official accounts, the gaps and the careful language, and the things that are conspicuous by their absence. He picks up the phone. He dials the number listed for next of kin. It rings twice. A woman answers. Marcus says, hello, my name is Marcus Webb. I am the new chief of police for this city. I'm calling about your son, Daniel. I believe there are questions about what happened to him that were never answered. I would like to answer them. And I would like to apologize, on behalf of this department and everything it failed to be, for how long it has taken someone to make this call. There is a long silence on the other end. Then the woman says, I've been waiting 3 years for someone to call. Marcus says, I know. I'm here now. Tell me everything. On the wall behind Marcus's desk, he has hung 2 photographs. One is a photograph of Darius at the birthday party, mid-laugh, completely himself. The other is a photograph of Marcus's Marine unit, taken in Helmand Province. 12 young men in desert gear, squinting in the sun, some smiling, some not. All of them wearing the particular expression of people who have been through something together, and know it, and know also that not all of them will be on the other side of it. Brothers in arms. Different wars. Same oath. In the room that used to be interrogation room 3, the camera in the corner has been replaced with a new one. The red recording light pulses steadily. Recording always. Recording everything. There is a small brass plaque installed beside the door. Marcus put it there himself, early that morning, before the ceremony, before anyone else arrived. He stood in the empty room with a screwdriver and a level, and he installed the plaque himself because he wanted to be the one to do it. The plaque reads, Darius Webb Reflection Room. Below that it reads, remember that every person who enters this building is someone's brother, someone's sister, someone's child. Treat them accordingly. Every new officer who comes through this department will be brought to this room as part of their orientation. They will stand in the room and read the plaque. They will be told the story of Darius Webb and what happened in this room, and what it cost, and what it changed. They will understand that the plaque is not decoration. It is a commitment. It is a daily reminder that the weight of the badge is the weight of the promise that comes with it. Outside Marcus's window, the afternoon sun slants across the parking lot. Shift change is starting. Officers filing in and out, radios crackling. The ordinary machinery of a working police department turning over from one day to the next. It looks the same as it did before. It does not feel the same. Not to the officers who were in that hallway watching through the glass. Not to Clara Hollins, who has been waiting for this for 3 years. Not to Tyler Reeves, who made a choice in a hallway 6 months into his career that he will carry with him for the rest of it as the best thing he has ever done. Not to Marcus Webb, who sat at a metal table in a room that smells like old fear and bled, and kept his hands folded and waited for the truth. And not to Darius Webb, whose name is on the wall now, whose story is told now, who is not forgotten and never will be on Marcus Webb's watch. The culture does not change in a day. Marcus knows this better than anyone. He has studied institutional failure and institutional reform for his entire professional life. He knows that cultures are built slowly, decision by decision, shift by shift, small choice by small choice, and they are only rebuilt the same way. There is no ceremony that changes a culture. There is no single arrest, no matter how long overdue, that changes a culture. What changes a culture is every officer who decides, on every shift, to do the thing they would want done if the person on the other side of the situation were their own family. What changes a culture is every supervisor who backs up the officer who made the hard right call instead of the easy wrong one. What changes a culture is every complaint that is taken seriously instead of buried. Every family that gets a phone call instead of a closed file. Every person who calls for help and receives it. One shift at a time. One officer at a time. One call for help at a time. That is Marcus Webb's promise to his brother. That is the oath he took this morning. That is the work. And he is already doing it. The phone on his desk rings. He answers it. A voice on the other end says there is a situation developing on the east side of the city. A man in crisis. Police have been called. The caller wants to know if the new chief wants to be briefed. Marcus says, "Send me the address. I'm coming." He stands. He takes his jacket from the back of the chair. He picks up his credentials. He walks past the 2 photographs on the wall. He walks past Darius at the birthday party, mid-laugh, completely alive. He walks to the elevator, and then out of the building, and into the afternoon light, and he is going somewhere where someone is scared, and in crisis, and calling for help. And this time, the person who shows up is going to be someone who knows what help actually means. This time, the person who shows up has made a promise to a name on a wall, and to a mother in a violet dress holding a photograph, and to 43 families still waiting for phone calls, and to every person who has ever reached for the phone in their worst moment and dialed the number that is. Supposed to mean, help is coming. Help is coming. On Marcus Webb's watch, help is always coming, and everyone who works in this building is going to know it. From the first day to the last. From shift to shift, case by case, call by call. Until the culture is what it was always supposed to be. Until the promise means what it was always supposed to mean. Until no one has to die in a room asking for help that never comes. Until no brother has to spend 3 years learning the shape of an absence and walking into the building that made it just to make the truth visible. Until Darius's name on that wall is not a memorial to a failure, but a monument to what was built because of it. That is the work. Marcus Webb knows the work. He has known it since the night his mother called him and told him his brother was gone. He has carried it for 3 years through every piece of paper and every file and every conversation with every federal agent, and every night lying awake running the case in his head until he knew every angle of it. He carried it up to the door of the 4th Precinct at 5:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. He carried it through a lobby and down a hallway and into a room where someone tried to make him disappear. He carried it out the other side. He will carry it every day for the rest of his career. Some weights are not burdens. Some weights are the reason you stand up straight. This is one of those. This has always been one of those. He gets in the car. He drives toward the east side of the city. He is going towards someone who needs help. He is going to make sure they get it. His brother is on a wall in a room, in a building that is finally, for the first time in a long time, becoming what it was supposed to be. And Marcus Webb is not finished. He is, in every way that matters, just beginning. If this story moved you, don't forget to like and share, because stories like this deserve to be heard. And tell me this. If you were in that room, would you have stayed silent or spoken up?